Hello and welcome to another edition of the Full Force News Burst, brought to you by GeneralsJoes.com, with me as your host, Chris addendummy McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80. Joining me today to discuss the news that Lorenzo di Bonaventura has officially confirmed the delay of G.I. Joe Snake Eyes the movie and has given us more info from the Transformers camp is Justin, The Last Night 2, this time it's Impersonal, Bell. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this news burst. We recently reported news that the Snake Eyes movie had been delayed due to the director Robert Schwenke getting a green light for another project. More news coming out of yet another Lorenzo di Bonaventura interview, this time with Slash Film, confirmed the fact that they would be starting later than planned. In the interview, he responded to a question asking about the Snake Eyes movie directly, saying, "We probably start late summer, early fall." He was also as tight-lipped as you'd expect Snake Eyes to be when asked about whether they would be able to pull off a movie with the silent character as the star, saying, laughs, "I'm not going to spoil that." Well, I should have gone like, there we go. "I'm not going to spoil that one. I will say this. Part of the opportunity of going back is to discover who is this guy. For me, I'm most interested in seeing it as an origin story. If you see it as an origin story, you do get to see him speak for X period of time." Finally, he brought up some reasons for wanting to do the movie in the first place. "It's one of the reasons, honestly, why I wanted to do Snake Eyes so much was because I love Kung Fu. I love the movie-making tradition that comes out of that. To me, it's so much fun to try to get into that, and then also try to figure out what is the new version of it. So not only do we get confirmation on the delay, but we also get a few other small details. Justin, considering we discussed the delay on the last episode, it's good to have an idea of when the movie will begin its process. Any more thoughts on that?"
No, not really, though I think I think part of us was hoping that maybe they would just hire a different director and maybe not suffer such a delay, although I would think the process of hiring another director would probably create a delay in and of itself. Yeah. But apparently they're committed to Schwenke, and they're going to put things on hold and wait for him to come back.
Is that a little disappointing for you?
Honestly, it is a little bit. I mean, I don't know enough about the director to know whether or not he's the right guy for the film, but it's disappointing the way the circumstances kind of came about. I mean, I understand a director is obviously a very, very important component to the filmmaking process. Yeah. So you want to make sure you've got the right guy and you don't want to switch them around too much. And, maybe, Snake Eyes will come out in 18 months and it'll be the best movie ever and we'll, bow down to Schwenke. But at this point, he's not a proven name. I don't know why we're, revolving the entire film's production around his availability, but, I guess we'll find out whenever the movie is actually released.
Do you think there's also an element of availability from other directors? Do you think some of the other ones that may be better choice just don't have the availability at all right now?
Certainly possible. And I mean, there was going to have to be a delay regardless. I mean, they were about to start principal photography and the director is suddenly not available. It's not like they're going to be able to, call up a temp agency and, hey, can you send a director for next week? We need a guy. It doesn't quite work that way. So regardless, if they'd had to go out and find another director somewhere, the delay may have been the same. So they probably figure, well, we might as well just wait rather than try to hunt another director down and spend the same amount of time finding a guy we know nothing about. So
hunting might be a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Predator style, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Any surprises in the fact we'll probably hear Snake Eyes talk at some point in the film? I mean, that's something we did discuss in previous chats about the film, obviously with it being an origin story.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's necessary, too. If he is the only guy in the film, I mean, it was one thing with Bumblebee where Bumblebee doesn't talk, but obviously Bumblebee is complemented by human characters that actually do talk. Mm. Snake Eyes is a human character, so it would have been kind of odd for him. He doesn't really have the Bumblebee gimmick down, so it would have been strange to have a Snake Eyes movie where Snake Eyes doesn't talk at all throughout the entire film. So I'm not surprised he's going to speak, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how they handle that. But as an origin film, it makes sense. I mean, they're addressing his history before the accident happened. So yeah, of course he's gonna end up speaking throughout most of it.
I would love to see a treatment of this script so far. I really want to know what we're dealing with here. I know that obviously that's not going to happen. But I think the more info we get over the next few months, I'm ready for. I want to start hearing information from this.
Yeah.
The only problem is with this delay, and I know this is nothing. This is nothing new to films, and all films suffer delays for whatever reason. Nothing ever goes fully to plan. But I think the fact that they've been pinning this date of March 2020 they've been pitching that so much, almost as if like this is in stone and cannot be moved.
Right.
Surely these serious delays, which do actually impact that particular release date, does that throw the rest of their roadmap into into disarray?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, I think. Yeah, it's got to. And I mean, you and I were kind of dismissing that whole March date anyway.
Yeah.
Internally, I don't know why they were so resistant to change that, even as it became more and more obvious that they weren't going to hit that date.
Still hasn't changed.
Yeah, and it still hasn't changed. Yeah, because I know, trust us. We'll bring Schwenke back in October, and we'll get a film out by March. Yeah, that's going to happen. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But honestly, if they're not planning this whole overarching kind of cinematic universe, which it doesn't appear that they are right now, then maybe it doesn't make a huge difference. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's. I mean, again, plans go out the window. Just because you plan for something doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. But we'll keep you up to date on any more news about Snake Eyes. Now, moving on. In the same interview, Di Bonaventura also discussed plans with the Transformers movies, including more confirmation regarding the fact that the new movie will be a reboot and not connected to the Bayverse at all. He also delivered a clear statement regarding whether Michael Bay would be back to direct, saying, "I think Bay has made it really clear that he loved what he did and he's not doing any more. So I think the answer is we're writing a script. At that point, once we get a script we have a strong belief in, then we'll begin to debate that. Michael's made it really clear that he didn't want to do it. I don't blame him. He spent a hell of a decade of his life shooting them." I can hear the rejoicing in the streets as we speak. How do you feel about that news, Justin?
Well, I'm happy about it. I mean, as funny as it sounds now, 10 years later, I used to be a big Michael Bay fan back in the day. I mean, he did some really pretty kick action movies kind of back in, the late 90s, the mid to late 90s, and I really enjoyed his stuff. And I was actually excited when I heard he was handling the Transformers franchise, because I think he has a unique perspective on action and really cool kind of kinetic way of filming this stuff. But, I think he just got kind of caught up in his own hype and tried to make each Transformers movie bigger and better and louder, and just ended up cascading into this avalanche of whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's time for him to be done. I think Hasbro realizes that too. But I mean, don't get me wrong, if The Last Knight had made $1 billion, and he wanted to stay, he would have. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
At one point there was talk of him having 14 more Transformers movies ready to go.
Imagine. What do you think the 15th Transformers movie would be? It would just be like this jumbled mass of metal that just kept contorting for 3 hours, making obnoxious noises and exploding. It was like...
It would have just been one big explosion. It would basically been a full force news burst is what it would be. That's what it would turn out like. I agree with you. I think the first Transformers movie I really enjoyed. I thought it was really cool to see a lot of those amazing characters come to life on the screen. And, I think, yes, some of the designs I still wasn't a massive fan of, but it wasn't as bad as the next 2, 3, 4, 5 movies that came from it. And you're right, by the time The Last Knight kind of hit theatres, I'd already lost interest about the third one. And Age of Extinction took me so long to finally watch. And it took me about 6 attempts to watch the past 20 minutes of that film. And eventually, once I finally watched it, I was like, why did I force myself to go through that? I did exactly the same thing with The Last Knight. I was convinced it was going to be shit. It wasn't for me. It was something I just wasn't interested in at all. I didn't see it at the cinema. I wasn't like putting my foot down saying I'm not going to go see it. I didn't have that urge to go and want to watch it. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think that just because you're a Transformers fan or a G.I. Joe fan, I don't think you should necessarily feel obligated to watch or to buy or to all this kind of stuff. Yes, support the brand where it's feasible and practical, but there are points where you have to go, okay, that's not for me, and I shouldn't feel obligated to support it. Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of, and I felt that way with The Last Knight. I was like, I'm just tired of this. It's literally brain cell destroying. And again, I forced myself to watch it, and I don't know why I did it. So I'm more relieved than anything else. And like you say, Bay did such a good job with the first movie. I'm just
Right,
so surprised
exactly.
it went that direction.
I remember after the first movie came out, back, when I was still hanging out on message boards, I spent way, way too long, like, arguing with other nerds and toy collectors about that film. And there were people that were, back then the biggest complaint was, why does Optimus have flames on him? And I was just like, this is ridiculous. Why are you complaining about this? The movie was awesome.
Yeah.
And I think as it obviously as it cascaded into future movies, you really started seeing, the later movies were awful.
Yeah.
But I still remain, not steadfast, but the first Transformers film was not bad. It was done very well. It was a nice marriage of Transformers and humans, and it was over the top, but not completely and absolutely ridiculous. But I didn't have any major issues with that first one, and I thought he did a really good job. But again, I think he got caught up in his own hype. Number one, and number two, they just threw all this stuff at the wall. They chose character names out of hats. They, none of the actual characters were characters. It was just it became obvious that I want Soundwave to be this really great character. It was like, I want Soundwave to be this kick silver sports car.
Yeah.
And that was all that mattered. He wanted these cars to be featured in the film, and whoever they happened to be as a robot was inconsequential. It was more about the car or the truck or the vehicle or whatever. So,
You're right, totally. And it was the Transformer characterization that's the main problem for me. You're right. It's the fact that we focus so much on the humans, and this is the Transformers movie, and all we get from the Transformers are stereotyped voiceovers that are really just a little bit offensive sometimes. I kind of watch it sometimes and think, oh God, why has that happened?
Yeah.
So I feel like it got very old-fashioned very quickly. That's the problem with it. The designs were a little dated. This is stuff we've gone over ad infinitum in the past. I was also willing, as a fan of Transformers as a whole, for these movies to continue. If it has an audience that's going to provide billions and billions of dollars, then by all means do that, because then I can enjoy the fruits of that particular labor. So I didn't have an issue with that side of it. It was just I realized very early on, these films are not for me, and that's fine. These films, that's the other thing. That film doesn't have to be for me. It's not, they're not making it so that Chris McLeod is happy with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I understand that completely, but obviously now we're in a position where we're on the verge of getting something even better, including like, a really good Bumblebee movie, which I actually really thought was really well done. And now we could be on the verge of something even better than that, which why would I just think this is a really good opportunity to make a clean break and start a new reboot, and I'm so happy that he's confirmed that fully now. Like,
absolutely.
How many news bursts have we done now where it's been like flip-flopping all over the place?
Back and forth.
I'm sure tomorrow we'll be doing, guess what, Lorenzo di Bonaventura has done another interview, and apparently they are doing a no, screw that noise. Anyway, any final thoughts on that, Justin?
I don't think so. No, it's we've covered it all. It seems like a bunch of different times with different perspectives. Whether it's happening or not happening, and the Bumblebee movie and what have you. But at this point, I hope that we have a direction with the Snake Eyes movie now, and I hope we kind of know what's coming for Transformers now. It could all change next week. Who knows? And it's pretty clear just by Di Bonaventura's interviews, and this is, obviously Kevin Feige or whatever, however you pronounce it, the guy in charge of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Every interview, he's pretty consistent about kind of what is happening with the universe, how they're evolving, how they develop their brand. You can tell just by the way Bonaventura is all over the frickin' map that they just don't have the right mindset at Hasbro to do what Marvel is doing over there. They don't have the right guy in charge. They don't have the right kind of cohesiveness, one project to another. So you can tell just by listening to interviews that that's the case. And that's fine. It sounds like they've kind of abandoned the cinematic universe, which is a little bit of a bummer. But, as long as we can get some good Transformers movies out of it and good G.I. Joe movies out of it, it is what it is. So let's hope that that things kind of straighten out a little bit.
Well said. Thank you very much. And one more shout out for Skinny Joe fan, who has been hearing a lot of chat about Leo Howard being given the Snake Eyes role. Obviously, this isn't official, and I'm blaming him if it goes wrong, so I'm putting him to the wolves. But he was the actor who played Snake Eyes as a child.
And they're saying he's going to be the Snake Eyes as an adult?
Well, he's been having a pretty big break in like Disney and stuff like that, and he's grown up a bit now. So he's apparently like his name is up there. So again, like it's more rumor at the moment, and I think just it's a name that's being bandied around a lot. And like I said, I'm just putting it all on Skinny. But what would you think about that quickly then, Justin?
I guess that'd be fine. I mean, I guess I don't really know enough about him, and it would be kind of weird that they picked that same actor in a reboot movie when it's like not really a continuation. You almost think this would be a great opportunity for them to actually, continue, even though it's not like Retaliation was a universe that was worth continuing because, everybody was freaking dead and whatever. but it's kind of interesting how they would tie that in for a film that they're purposefully calling a reboot. So
sorry, I should say Rise of Cobra, not Retaliation.
I? Right. Yeah. Rise of Cobra was the one that had the kid Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess I'd have to do a little more research on him. I don't really, obviously I don't watch the Disney Channel a whole lot, so I'm not sure what his.
Well, for a start, he'd have to dye his hair.
Yeah, and we'd have to put his face in a helicopter crash and burn his flesh off.
Yeah, we need to do a lot of that. Additional stuff.
Method acting, you got to get into it.
Could you imagine? Bloody hell! Don't give it to Shia LaBeouf. He'll probably do that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so we'll be talking. I suppose we'll be talking about Dreamcast. I'll give you more of a heads up on that one, Justin, before we record a Dreamcasting. Situation, because I don't want to drop it every time I drop it on us, because I drop it on myself as well, and then we're sitting here going, there's that guy who does a thing, and then we're like, so I'm going to force you to pick 5 on the next news burst of your kind of who you'd have as the Snake Eyes actor. So make sure you're ready for that.
I'll be ready.
Excellent. That's it for this instalment of the Full Force News Burst. Thank you to my awesome co-host Justin Bell. See you next time, and as always, full force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/The Full Force, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback or questions. We have also started a Patreon page, so if you want to see your name up in lights on these videos or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.